Is the PPT is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So today we are going to discuss on this introduction to social science research, because in the last class we were discussing about what is research, and I was just giving an brief idea about the research. And today we'll discuss in details exactly that what is exactly the social science research and how usually we do the social science research. Because whenever we are telling social science, the social science includes lots of disciplines, and within the discipline we have lots of divergence, that we have lots of discipline inside the social science, which is having different approaches. So how the different disciplines within the social science that do the research using different kind of approaches, all these things we'll discuss in details and step by step. Then we'll go ahead with other aspects. So first, you see, I was telling in the last class, which I am again repeating here. See, when I am telling what is research actually, I was telling about in the last introductory classes about what is exactly the research and how we do the research, that we are discussing in the last classes. So you see here what I am telling, that generally research is nothing but it is source of knowledge. And like when we are doing the research, we are mostly trying to source for the new knowledge, new invention, to invent something new and to find out some new knowledge which will be helpful to the society. So that means research is an objective, and research is a systematic search for relevant information on a particular subject or a topic. So that means I'm not doing the research in all the aspects, in all the topics, all the domains. What I'm doing, I'm having an objective, and I'm doing a systematic search for what? For finding out the relevant information on a particular subject or a particular topic on what I am working. So there, my aim is finding the answer to that questions by implementing scientific procedures. There are certain kind of procedures which I am adopting in the research, and through adopting those scientific research, I am trying to find out the answer to those questions which I have raised in my problem in the very beginning of my research. Because while I am doing this certain kind of research, I have to first find a problem. So, and my intention of doing research is to give an answer to that problem, to find a solution to that problem. That is my exact intention. So that's why research is an objective and systematic search for a relevant information on a particular subject or a topic. So then what is science? Because you see here, what was our topic? An introduction to social science research. Now we got the information, what is exactly the research. Then we'll go to the science. Then we'll discuss about social science research. Then in the later one, we'll discuss also how scientific is social science research, because that is also highly important, because that is a highly debatable in any introductory research methodology. We used to discuss that whether social science research is scientific in nature or not. That also we'll discuss a little later. Here you see, we are discussing about what exactly the science is. So here, whenever we are discussing about what is science, science is nothing but a body of knowledge and the process by which that knowledge is collected. Are you clear now? What is science? Science is a body of knowledge and the process by which that knowledge is collected. That is called science. Means here in the science actually what we do, we look for, we adopt certain kind of techniques, we adopt certain kind of mechanism through which we try to collect certain kind of knowledge from this society. So that is exactly the science. Means then scientific methods, usually sequential research. When we are doing scientific methods, I am doing the research in a very systematic way, in a very sequential way. I am adopting the mechanism through which by step I can go and do the scientific research. So that's why I have to adopt some scientific methods. It is not that I will go from the top and then I will go to the down. No, I have to. If I want to climb the tree, I cannot climb the tree from the top. I have to climb the tree from the bottom, and there are certain mechanism. If I want to reach at the top of the tree, I have to adopt certain kind of mechanism through that I can climb the tree and reach at a particular point. You see, when you reach at a postgraduate level, it is not that you directly join in the post-graduation level. You have completed all the formalities to reach at this level. You have gone through your schooling, you have gone through your colleges, which is required, minimum required for the joining a postgraduate course. So that's why the scientific method is nothing but usually a sequential research where we adopt certain kind of scientific steps to do the research. There, what we do? We first define a problem. Then, from the problem, we formulated a hypothesis which is supposed to be tested. Then, we collect and analyze the data. What do we do in the scientific research? We usually collect the data, then only we analyze the data. Because you see, if I want to do any research for that, I need the data. And once I get the data, I have to analyze the data to give a kind of to conclusion. Because unless and until I, as a researcher, suppose I as a scientist or as a scientific researcher, unless and until I define my problem, unless and until I formulated my hypothesis, and unless and until I collect my data, I cannot analyze the data, because these are the different steps I have to adapt, different sequences which I have to adapt to do my research in a more scientific way. Then interpret the results and draw the conclusion about the problem. So you see, I got the data, I analyzed the data. The moment I got the data and I tried to analyze the data, what I have to do? I have to interpret the results. Suppose I got certain kind of results, so then I have to interpret that why such result has come up, why X has not come up, why Y is the result. So that's why means I have to do more systematic interpretation of the result to draw a conclusion about the problem which I have formulated. So that is highly essential. Then scientific theory deals with the logical aspect of science. When I am doing scientific research, I am taking certain kind of scientific theories into account, on which, because I have told you, the any research is based on certain kind of statement, based on certain kind of theories. So scientific theory deals with more logical aspect of science, from where we draw certain kind of logics and then we interpret to analyze the data. So data collection deals with observational aspects. So any kind of data we collect in the scientific research, it is based on the observational aspect. Unless and until I systematically observe the things, so I cannot do a scientific research. Because for any data collection, I have to do a very kind of systematic. I have to do means very systematic way. I have to analyze the collect the data. Then data analyze looks for, so then what we are doing? Then we are going for data analysis. So when we are going for the data analysis, looks for patterns in observation and where appropriate, and compares what is logically expected and with what is actually observed. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So you see, wherever you want to understand, you just stop me there. So, so you see, when you're doing the data analysis, it looks for a pattern in observation and where the appropriate, and compares what is logically expected with what is exactly observed. See, we collected the data in any scientific research. What we do? We collected the data, then we try to, while collecting the data, we are observing the data from a different perspective, and where we find that the appropriate data is not being observed, and where we observe that the appropriate data is being found or not found, then what we are doing? We are trying to compare that what exactly we expected and what we got. And once we make a comparison, then actually we try to find a solution, and then we try to observe that. Because you see, when you look into generally what happens, when you have formulated a problem, while you have formulated a hypothesis, your basic intention is to find a solution to that problems, how to resolve that problem. So that's why you have to go through a very systematic way and collecting the information, analyzing the information, and comparing that information with other whatever is available with you. And while comparing, while analyzing, while interpreting the result, you should do everything in a very logical way, otherwise you cannot do the proper research. Then what is exactly the social science research? Social science research is systematic attempts using socially approved methods to extend our knowledge and understanding of the world. See, the social science research exactly is a very complex in the nature, because who are our target group? Our target is society. Our target is the human beings who are living in the society. Again, because in social science research, generally they are our targets. Our target is society. Our target is human beings. The society itself by nature is very complex. The human beings by nature is complex. So that means the human beings whom I am studying is very complex. The society on which I am studying is very complex. So that's why when the aspect on which I am making a study is a complex. So definitely the social science research is more complex in the nature. Unless and until we are very much careful, the result will be something different. Because I have told you earlier, while we are doing the research, in social science research, usually we should go for more in depth, because I have told you earlier that is person behaves differently on the different occasion, on the different situation, and the different seasons. Because a students who behaves while in the class, his or her behavior is something different than when he or she is in the hostel, or when he or she is in the playground, or when he or she is at their respective homes. So that's why their attitude, their behavior, their approach usually different from the change of the moment. You see, you are in the class, look into your physical class, remember about your graduation levels when you are in the physical class. The moment you are in the class, you looks very highly disciplined in nature. But the moment class is over, the teacher told, now I'm ending the class today, you can go now. The moment you get out from the rooms, you have scattered, then create sounds differently, as if you were inside a room for a longer period on which you are highly controlled. So every means inside all the kind of suppression used to be blast, and you behave in something different way the moment you come out from the room. So that's what I'm telling you. See, so in social science research is a systematic attempts using socially approved methods to extend it, because you cannot use different kind of mechanism. What are the mechanism you can use? You can interact. What is socially approved methods that you can use in extracting the knowledge and understanding of the world. Suppose I am taking an interview from somebody. There are certain kind of socially approved mechanism through which I can interact, the question which I can ask. I cannot ask every question to everybody. Like, there are certain kind of mechanism to ask the question. There are certain kind of methods to ask the questions to the peoples. So that's why we should be very much careful of doing a systematic attempts, specifically in the social science research. Social research at both the ends. So means I am doing the research at my own end as a researcher, and also at the end of at the board end in the sense as a researcher I'm doing, and on what I'm doing the research, I'm also looking into that. So that means while I'm doing the research, while I'm in the field, I'm looking the people's behavior in the field itself, the way they're behaving. I'm doing certain research there itself, and the moment I collect the data, I enter the data into the tables, and the moment I do certain kind of analysis, either on my own or using certain kind of statistical packages, then I try to link the findings with the field and also try to link the findings with my existing theory. I try to link the findings with the existing methodology, then with my existing knowledge, and then I relate it to the field and interpret both the problems, both a problem and an advantage. That's while we are doing the research, specifically in the social science, we try to focus on a particular problem which I have taken. Then at the same time also, we are trying to look into that what kind of advantage will be appear if we will be resolving this problem. And while we are dealing with a problem also, we look into the advantage on which we will deal. People not have the passive objects. They have meaning. They interact with the researcher. You see, I cannot see the people as an object because my research lab is the society. The components or elements in the research are the peoples, the common man, the individuals are my elements in the research. So there, what I'm doing, I cannot simply consider here people as a passive object. Rather, the peoples on whom I am doing the research are having a certain meanings and they interact with the researcher. Like while I am doing the research, I am also interacting with the peoples and peoples are also interacting with the researcher. So that means here the people are not an object, rather they have a meaning and we are having an interaction with the researcher and the peoples. But you see, researcher and research share the same overall more insight because you see what exactly happening in social science research. See, I can find lots of people having in-depth knowledge in that particular aspect, on that particular area. So here, researcher and researched share the same word and a more insight way because I and my research on whom I am doing the research means I as a researcher and on whom I am doing the research as a researched, uh, sharing the same world. So that means we are living in a very, when I am doing the research in a particular aspect and interacting with my peoples, at that time we both are sharing a common climatic zone, a common space, but again the moods are also different because the I have no assumption, I have no prior information on what mood he or she is sitting. And he or she does not know on what mood I am. So that means you see my existing situation also have a certain kind of impact on the research and also the outcome or the finding also depends on what mood the person is sitting. Suppose you see, I'll give an example. Suppose I am doing an research on agriculture, agrarian society or relating to any agricultural products and all. Suppose I just went to interact with some of the farmers, and that too, suppose I went in agricultural season when the farmers are quite busy in collecting the crops from the field. See, they have to roast, they have to collect the crops, and they have to kept it in their granaries and all. So what exactly, if in between I cajole one farmers and interact, that farmer may not be in the mood to talk to me because he's in a different mood. He's he is in a not in a mood to talk to me because he's busy. He has to wind up his work. But I might be in a different mode of collecting the information, but I have to be sure that whether the whom I am interacting is also be ready to interact with me. Then uh, we'll come to this again. Um, See, while we are doing social science research, what exactly we are doing? We are trying to understanding the different social problems. And while we are trying to understand the different social problems, there what I'm doing, I'm trying to explore that the continuity and change of that particular problems. And if I found a problems in between, I'm doing the interpretation of that problem. I'm using different kind of mechanism methods that I'll come to little later. So that means here what I'm doing, while we are doing any social science research, generally we are taking a particular problem, we are trying to interpret that problem, and while studying that problem, we are trying to study the continuity and change. Suppose you see, think in example of a particular folk culture in a particular society. If you are doing research in a particular society's folk culture, then what you are doing, you are making a study that how that folk society is still living with that traditional culture, or there or there any kind of changes come to that traditional folk culture, and if certain changes come up, whether it is completely rooted out or any kind of continuity of the traditional culture is still continuing. If it is continuing, to what extent it is continuing? If it is continuing, how it is continuing? What is the major role of others in preserving that continuation? And if any kind of changes come up, what are the necessity of change? And when exactly the period where the real change started? Because you see, change is inevitable in the nature. The change you cannot change is not kind of is not static. It is dynamic in the nature, because any kind of cultural change usually comes up. You cannot simply stop somewhere the changing the world. Okay, because you see, think about the way you your lifestyle, your dress style, your food style, everything. See, it is changed. If you compare from your childhood days to till now, you'll find that your dress pattern, your fashion design, your approach, your behavior, everything is being changed in the course of time. Right? So, and sometimes what happens, either we have completely adopted the modernity, or we are living with the traditional style in the midst of modernity. Means I am halfway modern and I am halfway traditional. So that's why it's very kind of things. And what generally we do in the social science research, we try to compare the variables with attributes. Suppose you see, I can take the age as a variable. So what will be my attributes? Young, middle-aged, old. See, suppose what I'm telling in a social science research, these are the variables which is highly important, because while we are taking independent variable and dependent variables, and in social science research generally, unless and until we find certain kind of variables and our variables are or indicators are very well defined, we cannot do justice to our research. Suppose when I'm thinking about suppose I look into I just want to make a comparison that the education, whether the rise of education is, I just want to make a study and the rise of literacy in a particular society, or rise of education in a particular society. There I can just look into certain kind of variables, because I just want to make a kind of link in my analysis that which group of peoples are adopting more educations, whether I can take in kind of economics aspects, means their occupations, means what exactly their source of livelihood. If somebody is well established, may opt for opt for education more. If somebody is very living in a very poverty condition, living in a very poor family, so they may face the problem in adopting the education. Then the second thing is I can look into the age of a person. The person who's in the what age? If somebody is very old, he may not adopt the educations. This and then gender, sometimes, because our society is based on the gender discrimination. So whether the parents are preferring to send their girl children to the education, or they are preferring to send their, because if their economic condition is very poor and they can afford some few their children's, so means whom they are preferring, whether they are preferring male to send to school or whether they are preferring female to send to school. Then the ethnicity also matters. Then social class, upper class, middle class, lower class, all these variables. There are lots of variables in the social science, and the variable we take based on our research design, based on our research problem, and based on our hypothesis, exactly based on our objective, based on our research question, what exactly we are trying to explore, so that will decide our variables. And inside the variables, we have to be very clear about the attributes. What exactly the attribute I'll tell. I'll tell what the attributes. Then we have to the relations between attributes and variables forms the heart of both description and explanation in the science and social sciences. Because on this note, it's generally in science research also, we are mostly trying to establish the relationship between these variables and the attributes also. See, then These are the mechanism we take. These are the methods and mechanism, geographic, nomothetic. I'll teach you in details. Don't worry about this. The naming and netting approach, that is insider and outsider approach. All these things, the the past and the present and all that we'll discuss in the later on. While we'll discuss all these methods, we'll discuss little later. So here you see, in social science research, what exactly we are doing. In social science research, we deal with the human behavior. There are so many disciplines which I have already told you. We have a sociology, we have anthropology, we have psychology, we have political science, we have economics. See, again in the social science research, the different discipline, they deals with the human beings from a different perspective. The psychologists try to look into the human behavior. The sociologists try to look into the human society. The anthropologists try to look into the human culture and its evolutions. Then economists try to look into the human economic behavior. Okay. Then political science look into the political behavior of human beings and how politically he's involved, what is his interest in this. So then to what extent he is politically empowered. Then history deals with the history of human society, human civilization. So all this discipline having different perspective, and they try to explore the different perspective from a different and a different periods. So that means in the social science, which we look at things from a different perspective, from different looks. We have, and generally, if you look into the, which I will teach you in the more details in the later on. See, we have two methods generally we adopt in social science research. One is qualitative methods, another is quantitative methods. What is qualitative method? It explores the meaning of the people's experience, inductive in nature. Maybe if you look at the qualitative research, generally here we mostly depends upon the people's narration, people's experience, people's feelings, what generally they describe to us. We noted it down and then we later on interpret those data. And here we are doing the research in a qualitative research, we are doing in a more inductive way. It is not deductive, means here we are doing inductive, means here we are going from specific to generalization, but which is not in the case of quantitative things. But which in quantitative we usually adopt the deductive methods where we go for generalization to specific. But here we look from more kind of specific to general. Here in qualitative research, usually depends on more sample. Our sample is very less, very small in the nature. Usually in the qualitative research, generally the discipline like sociology, anthropology, they used to adopt more qualitative research where they usually do the village studies, because you, if any of you have any experience of studying any village study books, any books in village studies, have you read?
Sir, MN
Sorry?
Srinivas book on social change. That like some parts of that was a field research, so that I have studied.
Okay. Anybody else having any experience of studying the village study books? And you might be attending that social institution, na? Professor Koteswar Rao might be teaching you, na? So,
Yes, sir.
So anyhow, if he may give you some kind of the, books to study, because he will teach you definitely the village studies and all. So he will give you some books. So there are very beautiful books, and as a development study students, you should also concentrate on those books. So there are so many books on village studies by S.C. Dubé, then Mackim Marriott, then Clifford George, so M.N. Cinemas, and your Andhra Bete. There are so many village study books. So you look into this, and you will get a yeah, and those person who did study on caste system, they have written beautiful books on village studies. So in qualitative research here, data is more descriptive in nature, collected through the interview. Generally, through interview, we collect the data, which is more descriptive in the nature. So from that data, we interpret, we analyze, we do the kind of analysis. But it is more descriptive in nature. But quantitative data examine the relationship among the various variables. In quantitative research, what we do, we try to examine the relationship between among the various variables. Here we usually adopt the deductive mechanism. Here we take the lab samples, and here data is numerical in nature, because when we are telling the quantitative research, we take, suppose we collect the data for the last 50 years, then we are doing a time series analysis. Okay. So that means here data are numerical in nature, we use different statistical packages in analyzing the data. But in qualitative research, there are different statistical packages also now we are using for the qualitative analysis also, and there are different kind of also the software is being developed for analyzing the qualitative data. Otherwise, sometimes what we do, we also do manually kind of analyzing the data, because if I am doing a very ethnographic kind of research, so there I not necessarily need any software. I can, based on my field notes and all, I can interpret and write the thesis or report. And we have all will discuss about this qualitative and quantitative, inductive, deductive. But you see, generally in social science research, I have already told you earlier, generally we try to explore all these aspects from 5 angles. See, while we are doing research, who will do the research first? Then one thing also I have forgotten here, that second one is on whom I have to do the research, who will do the research, on whom he will do the research, on what aspect he will do the research, when he will do the research, how he will do the research, and why he will do the research. These are the certain kind of questions. If you are very clear, you can be a good researcher. Because in order to be a good researcher, you have to first find out all these W's and H's. Because on this non-tree, you have a clear-cut idea. Because first you should know that who will be engaged in doing this research. Then the second thing is on what aspect you will do the research. The third thing is on whom you will do the research. Where is your field? On whom? Who are your community? On whom you will do the research. That when you will do the research, the timing of the research. Because why I told timing of the research? The timing of the research matters a lot. Suppose I am doing a study on that landlord and agricultural labor relationship. See, if I go to a village where I do the study during the drought period, the production was down. But generally, if you look into the agreement, usually the landlords makes the agreement with the tenants or the agricultural laborers that the production will be distributed in such a proportionately, or generally they fix that I will take this much amount of money and per 1 acre of land. So they are supposed, due to drought, the production goes down, and then what you will find? You will find that there you will find that all of a sudden the tenant, and if you make a study on between tenant and agricultural landlord, you will find that the tenant already who has already paid will be the loser. Here you will find that you can, in your write-up, you will write that landlord usually exploit the tenants. But you see, if you go to a another situation where the climatic situation where there is huge rain and there is very good rainfall happen, the production is very high. There, the tenant who has paid certain kind of amount to the money to the farm, to the landlords, so he will get much gain because of rise of production, because of all climatic support. So there, you will not able to tell that the landlord has exploited the tenant here. So that's why you see generally the best, and suppose if you are making a study on flood, if you go to the field during the flood period, you will find that people's expression will be something different than if you go in a drought period. If you go to the field during a drought period and ask the people what is your experience about the flood, what you did, what the problem you faced during flood, definitely people will react, because the moment they heard the term water, the flood, during the drought period, they will react and they will tell you, "Gee, we are suffering now due to drought," and you are telling about the kind of flood and all. So then the three questions for historians. So means what exactly if you see, I'll tell you, in any social science research, history matters a lot. Generally, we always feel that the historians should be get engaged only doing the historical research. It is not necessary. As a social science, we all should focus also historical research. Why did an incident take place? Why didn't it happen earlier? And why didn't it happen later also? What a particular point of time? All these things should ignite your mind while explaining. Because last time when I was giving an example of conflict between farmer A and farmer B, I was telling about why this incident took place, why it happened, why it didn't happen earlier, and if it is happen earlier, on when exactly the problem started, does this problem will continue and will also happen in the later on, and what a particular time this problem or the conflict arise. All these things have to be find out and affect mode and do the things. So these are I'm not getting into this. These are all kind of from a very disciplinary perspective. If you look into the anthropology things, they look into diffusionism, evolutionism, functionalism, different theoretical approach they use for doing the study. Social science make you conscious of what exactly you are a social being. It gives you a tolerant of a culture. It questions some identity. It speaks about the ethnocentrism and cultural relativism. I'll clarify all these things in the later course time. So now, any kind of doubt you have on this, we'll discuss then. Tell. Hello. Hello. Anybody any doubt on this? Are you understanding?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, so now at least in the later on you will not tell that, sir, we have not understood what sir was teaching, at least, because that's why I'm repeatedly asking. Uh, I'll share some books today with all of you. I'll send through this Microsoft team. So, so please, any doubt, anytime, you just write me. You clarify your doubt, because I'm repeatedly telling, if you will not understand the research methodology, then you will be in trouble. So be very careful about the research methodology.